Hello, everybody. Welcome to the January session of our monthly update on Dynamics 365 unified operations. I can see there are people still joining, but I will get started to make sure that we get through our stuff. So here's our usual disclaimer. Things change a lot, so of course we do our best to inform you as quickly as we can, but we can't guarantee that everything is perfect. Objectives and agenda. So for those of you who have never attended these sessions, we try to do some QA after each section. So when we finish the section, if you have any questions, please use the questions box in GoToWebinar to ask questions. Hopefully we will see them and we'll try to answer them right away. Or type your question in the chat window. We'll take a maximum of 1 to 2 questions per section because we need to move on. Please keep them short and clear. Try to keep our answers short and clear. If you need a deeper dive into something, then you're always welcome to contact us. At the end, there's a survey. We'd appreciate it if you do it. It's for your benefit. We have been changing the format and the content based on that. So the more feedback you give us, the better this will be. I'll show it, the URL for it. You don't have to remember it. You'll get an email with it about an hour after the webinar is done. Materials, there's a PDF copy of the presentation in the handouts if you want to download it. But again, if you don't worry, you'll receive an email with it after the end of the session, and you'll get a URL also of the recording on our YouTube channel. So if there's something you want to go through again, you can go check it out there. The agenda. Basically, we, as usual, will start with Recann giving us some news about what's going on in the resourcing market and what's happening. We'll give you some news about us and what we're up to, and then we look at the core of this, which is what has changed, what updates do we have in the Dynamics 365 ecosystem. Finally, we have some tips and tricks if we have enough time, and a quick wrap up. Recann. So this is where I hand over to Jonathan, so you can say a little something about Recann. Jonathan.
Brilliant. Thank you, Louis. Hi there, everyone. Happy New Year. Hope you've all enjoyed the holiday season, and welcome to the first Dynamics 365 Unified Operations webinar of 2018. My name is Jonathan Fisher. I'm part of the management team here at Recann and help lead our Dynamics recruitment practice. Before Louis begins providing you with the updates from Microsoft this month, I'd like to share with you a brief animation that provides an overview of Recann, our services, and how potentially we could help you and the companies that you're working for. So we just start the animation, Louis.
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, so I hope you've all enjoyed the video. Hopefully it wasn't as stuttery as on my machine. For any information regarding market news, I think going forward, what we'd like for you to do is to please get in touch with us. If there's any information that you'd like with regards to any particular technologies which might be in demand, then like I say, speak to one of our Dynamics consultants. We can provide you with information about salary surveys or rate surveys, or even if you just like to have a catch up with us, we'd love to hear from you. So I hope you'll all enjoy the webinar, and back to you, Louis.
Yes, thank you. That was a really cool video. It's the first time we've run it. So I hope everybody enjoyed it. So a little bit of news and a little bit about XABS. So this is the core team at XABS. I'm not going to go through this with you. If you want to see the details of who we are and what our backgrounds are, you can pick up the handout and read it. So I'll move on. News of what we're doing. We just trained, and this might be relevant for some of you. We started training the first group of Microsoft PTAs in Atlanta in USA. This was mid-December. This whole new team from Microsoft, and PTA is a partner technical architect. There are 60 of them all over the world. They're supposed to help the partners. So if your partner is being challenged by something, they should be able to go to these guys, and these guys should be able to help them and help you. So keep that in mind. PTAs. Run by a guy called Daniel. Daniel. I can't suddenly I can remember his last name, but run by Daniel. We are trying to get started with building up a team of CRM team in Lisbon. This Microsoft CRM and all the CRM stuff. We've planning a implementation workshop in London in the UK in March together with Recann. We have a boost workshop in Zurich in Switzerland on the 20th of February with Microsoft, and we have kicked off our first implementation of an on-premise with a German customer, and we have some partner training coming up also in Switzerland if anyone is interested. Some tips and tricks. We agreed that we'd give you a tip in the beginning just so that you have something fun. And then we have another one at the end. So the beginning, I still experience that a lot of people go through a lot of steps every time they have to log in or connect to a VM, and they go through a lot of clicking. And this basically, if you set your RDP connection or configuration correctly, after the first time you've logged in, you should be able to just double click it on it once and log in automatically without being prompted for a whole lot of stuff. So if you are still doing a lot of clicking to be able to RDP to your VMs, pick up the handout, look at this, and set it up, follow the instructions, and save yourself a lot of trouble. Basically, I'm not going to go through the details. I think some of you will already have this, so I'll just move ahead to the real important stuff. That's LCS updates. That's the first topic. So updates. There have been a lot of updates during December, and they have been in multiple waves. So this seems to be catching on. That there used to be only one a month, but now they just keep coming out all the time. So I guess you need to stay on top of it. We'll try to keep you up to date here monthly. There have been quite a few issues with applying updates from LCS, and we're talking about deployable packages. Starting the 14th of December, customers were experiencing failures with this, and then there were various other things also. So if you've been experiencing problems, as you can see, these are the updates that you need to look into. Go into LCS, check on them. One that is not documented is that if you're trying to apply a package through LCS to an environment, which you're required to do before Microsoft will apply it to your production environment, and you are using the chain of command pattern in your deployable package in any of your code, it will fail. It does not work at this moment. Microsoft is working on it, but I haven't seen anything about it. We know this because we have concrete situations and we've had to discuss this with Microsoft. So remember, if you're using chain of command in a deployable package and try to apply it through LCS, it won't work. Now, I will let you go and check the details of this. The important thing is lots of changes going in all the time. Some of the new stuff is not working, and then they've been patching it and fixing it. So it's a hard job just to keep track of this. So you need to go check on it. Next, package rollback. So one of the things that is in there, package rollback updates. It's now possible to roll back a package. So before, if you were applying a deployable package to an environment and it failed, you could abort, but that was it. You were stuck with it. So you would be left to an environment that was corrupt. You had to go to the VM of the environment, and then you had to try and manually clean it up, which was an almost impossible task. Now it is possible to abort still, but you can also roll back, and that should roll back your environment to a clean state. Now, our experience up to this moment is this is one of the things that has been failing, with the result that then the rollback fails too, and that leaves you in a situation where basically you got to check out your environment. So our recommendation is, before you do this in UAT, get a add-on, a T2 add-on, where you can try this on, make sure it's working, so that you don't end up with a corrupted UAT environment. If it works on your test T2 environment, then it should work with UAT. So be careful of this stuff. Environment upgrade scheduler. Now, if you need to upgrade an environment, it used to be that you had to go do it, and it was interactive. But now, basically, you can schedule your updates. So you can go home and do it in the evening or over the weekend, and you don't have to stay up late or work during the weekend when you need to update environments. This is particularly useful if you have a lot of environments and you need to update them all. Right now, to be that you'd spend some people would spend a whole weekend doing this stuff one by one. So now you can schedule them. That's really quite nice. Solution package SLA. It used to be that there were some restrictions on uploading solution packages. This is mostly relevant for people who work for ISVs, because they have whole solution packages. They have data and a whole bunch of other stuff, not just the deployable packages. And then that was one way of providing it to the clients in one go. So some of the restrictions have now been taken back, and so global solution packages which have a restricted scope can be imported into the asset libraries with just solution permission. Solution package import. When you import the solution, you will prompt the following slide to accept the solution package owner's SLA and privacy policy. So now you're going to have to, before you apply it, you're going to have to agree with this. Again, this is mostly relevant for our ISVs. So it's just an extra step in there, and it basically makes sure that you've agreed and accept the terms and conditions in there. So if you don't know the terms and conditions, click on the link and make sure that you're okay with the terms and conditions Microsoft imposes when you upload a solution package. You can deactivate solution packages. Again, stuff for ISVs. So this means basically if you've provided a solution package and you want to get or stop people being able to use it, you can just deactivate it in LCS. Reconfiguring your on-premise environment for people who have on-premise environments. If you needed to change something up to now, you're basically stuck with re-provisioning the environments. So this nice update that, if you find out that something is not configured exactly as you'd expected, it is now possible to do that without actually having to check everything out and start again. So nice new feature if you're doing on-premise. The support experience has changed slightly. This is no big deal. It's more that the flow has changed. So if suddenly things are not exactly as you are used to, if you need to submit an issue, then you know it has changed. It's got a few more steps basically, but no big deal. Searching for project work items in Visual Studio Team Services. Now this one took me a while to figure out exactly what it was about. What it is basically is if you tag work items in Visual Studio Team Services with the tag shown here, which is a searchable finance and operations, users in the client, that is in the Dynamics 365 for operations client, as you can see in the picture below, when they go into support, they will actually be able to see them there. This is completely new. I'm not completely sure when I would do that, but now you know that it's possible. And if you think it's interesting and you have any work items in the Visual Studio Team Services that think be relevant to make visible to Dynamics 365 users in the client, then now you know how to do it. That was the end of that section. Does anyone have any questions? If you have questions, just say something in the chat and I'll unmute you and you can ask your question. Any questions? You can also enter in the question box. I see that there are no questions. So you have to be quick on the trigger. I'm going to move ahead. License updates. This month, the licensing has not changed, so there are no updates to licensing. Support updates. There haven't actually been any changes, and we already showed this in December. But I know I can see there are quite a few people now that were not present in December. Microsoft, as you know, is going to lock down the application layer of Dynamics 365 for operations. So it's very important. If you have any problems using the extending model and getting rid of any customizations you're doing by overlayering, then go here. Contact. You must have an NDA to be enrolled, but take care of your NDA, and you cannot solve the problem. Go to the Operations Extensibility Feedback Program and talk to Microsoft about it, because they want to lock it down, and they will help you to try and figure out how to solve the problem you have using extensions. Okay, so this is important. Any questions on this? Just say something in the chat in the question and I'll unmute you. I see no questions, so I'll move ahead. Platform updates. Now, there was a lot here. We played PU 12, Platform Update 12, actually came out just the day before we did the December session, so we didn't have time to cover it. And so we'll basically cover a few now. The main points in this is the discover and learn currently available keyboard shortcuts when you're in the browser client. So what this really means is that you can right-click on a icon or an element, and it'll show you if there's a shortcut key. The shortcut keys are exactly the same, still very limited. The only difference is now you can right-click on the elements and see if there's a shortcut key for it and what it is, instead of just having to remember them. So a nice little things for you to help you start to use the shortcuts. Development and build environments in customer LCS implementation projects are monitored and managed by Microsoft. What this means in practice is that any environments that you have that are basically add-on environments that, and therefore they are hosted on the Microsoft Azure subscription, you no longer have admin access to the VMs. That's the real practical part of it. Microsoft has made some changes so you don't need admin access to the VMs to do development or any testing that you might be doing in them. They manage the whole thing for you. So they're basically restricting your permissions on the VMs. So that means there's stuff that you used to be able to do with them that you no longer will be able to do. Enabling SQL triggers in bring your own database. Now, it used to be for performance reasons that if you had your own database, and therefore you were copying data to your own database, it bypassed triggers in the target database. This has been changed, so now it will not bypass the triggers in your own database, which means that if you have any downstream processes in your own database, they will be triggered, and therefore everything will just flow nicely, as opposed to after you've updated your own database, then you'd have to go manually kick off any processes that should have been triggered by that data. Exporting B2B users to AAD. Exporting B2B users to AAD used to be a process of that you had to put them in a file, and then you had to upload the file, and so this was a manual process. And basically now, instead of having to have the CSV file with all the user accounts from your business partners, so you could load them into your own Azure AAD tenant, now this process can be automated from directly from the Azure portal. I have to be very honest, not quite fathom it completely out yet. It's a complex process, but now you know that if you need to do that, you can actually set it up and automate it. Personalizations can easily be shared one or more roles in your organization. So there's always been the ability for administrators to export personalization done by user, and then to apply it to other users or roles within an organization by exporting and importing. This is now simplified, so an administrator can share personalizations from the personalization administration form. So you don't have this business having to export and then import. Additionally, the feature allows you, if you're an administrator, more control over how to apply it. So instead of replacing existing personalizations, you can also choose to actually add them to whatever the user has already of personalizations. While previously, when you imported, whatever personalizations the users had would just be simply overwritten. So that's nice that, you know, if you have some personalizations that you want to send out to everybody, that you can actually apply them to everybody without blowing away whatever people have already done for themselves. Finally, reporting. In document routing agent scale improvements. There used to be this, for you guys who don't know, in order to print something, your printers are, of course, not in the Microsoft data center, so you have printers locally on your premises and in your offices and factories, etc. And there was this routing agent which enabled works like a print server on your premises, could communicate with your instance in the Azure on the cloud and the Microsoft data center. But this had quite some limitations. It's quite limited. So now this has been improving. So there's support for a lot more network printed devices than there was before. So if you've been in a situation where you had problems because some of the printers you already have couldn't be used, you don't need to check them out. Go check this out, see if it's now supported. And you can have up to 15 network printers. So, and the client, there's been some improvements in the client's ability to handle common printing workloads. This has been a bit of a challenge until now. So that's the core of it. But so let's move ahead to the current update, just so you're updated on where we are at. As you can see, so platform update 12, this was officially released the last days of November. So that's, as I mentioned, that's why we did not cover it previously. I'm gonna bring up a funny situation now, which is PU13. Now, there's some information out there about the release of a PU13. As you can see on my screen, if I go to the asset library, contrary to what the documentation on the Microsoft support site says, it's not available from the asset library. You see I've marked in red, and you see the latest one that is available from there is Platform Update 12. There's no Platform Update 13. This was released in December. You can, however, find it by searching in either with the issue search or in the binary updates. And I'm going to go through a couple of steps in this because it's important, because there's been a lot of confusion about this. And Microsoft is confused about what it's doing. So, you know, you can get it, as you can see here, all binary updates, you enter in there, and even there, you won't see it in the binary updates. So, sorry, my mistake in the previous slide. It's not present in the binary updates either. See, even if you search for update 13, the closest match it has is update 12. But if you do an issue search, as you'll see, there's a Dynamics Finance Edition Platform Update 13. Now, this is very odd, and I've looked into it, and it's not really a platform update in the normal sense. This is just fixes, and it cannot be applied through LCS. That's why it does not show up in the asset library if you try to import it. It has to be applied like a fix. So basically, you have to go apply this stuff in a development environment, check it in, and then take it from there, just as you would with any fix. So PU13 is not really a platform update. It's a bunch of platform update hotfixes. And since I think this is people seem to be very confused about this, including Microsoft. Does anyone have any questions? No questions? Okay, so I hope everybody got this. I was kind of confused about this because I couldn't find it in the beginning, and when I found it, I couldn't apply it. But so that's how things are. Application updates. There's been quite a few application updates. I'm not going to go through them all for you, but you have a list here of the most important ones. A lot of them might not be relevant to you, so just browse through it. Make sure you go check out any ones that look relevant to you, so you know what's going on. And if we move on, so that you know when these came out, so as you see, this is version 7.3. It was available in December, and as you'll notice, the versioning naming keeps changing. So don't let that confuse you. The best way to keep track of what versions you're dealing with is look at the build number, because there's no the versioning naming is not consistent. But December there was 7.3.11.971, etc., and there's quite a lot of stuff there. Current updates. So on the application updates, this is a small set of the application enhancements. So these are fixes. These are the latest fixes. If you are on anything before 7.3, you should have a look at these and consider applying them. There's also a whole lot of stuff in there. We actually mentioned this already in December, but apparently there's still a lot of people who haven't picked them up. So there it is for you. Before I move on to the next one, any questions at this point? No questions? Nobody saying anything in the chat? I'll move on. Let's look at Azure updates. Now, Azure updates, there's always a lot of stuff going on in Azure, and most of it is not really relevant for Dynamics 365. I've picked out here the most important ones, and I've marked them in red, the ones that could be relevant for us. And we have the Azure Dev Test Labs, setting up internal support information for your lab. If you're setting up test labs and using test labs for managing your testing, then this is relevant for you. There have been some changes in there. The Active Directory domain server supports CSP subscriptions. This is mostly interesting for people who are using CSP subscriptions. CSP subscriptions, for those of you who don't know, are cloud I can't remember right now. It's the licenses you can get from partners, cloud solution partners, I believe. That's what the CSP stands for. So they're not enterprise licenses. They have advantages in that they can be much more flexible. And so now there's some interesting stuff there that you should go check out on if you have a CSP license. Automation run books available in action groups take actions from alerts. So quite a few people use automation runbooks to automate a bunch of stuff. For example, I regularly use them to stop environments automatically that are not in use all the time. And it used not to be, there was no way if there was an alert that you could execute a runbook. So this is nice because you could have some runbooks that if there's an alert or a problem could go off and do something for you, instead of you continuously having to check their alerts and if you have to do it. It's nice if you're doing DevOps. That's a cool update. There's also the Azure portal update for classic portal users. Now, as most of you probably know, there's a classical portal and there's the modern or new portal. A lot of stuff is disappearing from the classical portal. There are some updates. If you're still using the classical portal, go check them out. But generally, our recommendation is it's going to die, so move away from it and move to the new portal. But if you, for some reason, still need to use it, go check it out. Again, concerning test labs, you can enable custom images with licensing terms. So if you using custom images to set up your dev labs and you have them there, basically you can put some licensing terms, and this is particularly useful for people who provide this kind of stuff as a service to clients, so that the clients accept the licensing terms under which they are getting their test labs. That fundamentally covers the Azure updates. Any questions at this point? Nope, I don't see any. So just to make sure everybody is awake, I have a poll, and I'm gonna ask you to please do it. I'll give you a few minutes, and I'm launching it now. So there it is. Please respond. Okay, that was quick. People are responding very quickly. That's great. You're all actually following, even though you're not asking questions. I'll give you a few more minutes. Okay, I'll share the results with you. We have about 50% people who are already using Dynamics 365 and about 50% who are not. Okay, 50-50. I'm going to close the poll. I think almost everyone has voted. Thank you very much. And I'll move on. Office 365 updates. Again, as Azure, there's lots of stuff that gets updated all the time. We focus on tracking stuff that is relevant or affects Dynamics 365. And I'm not going to go through the details of them all. The important stuff is, if you see this compared to last month, there were quite a few that were launched, Office updates, and there's still quite a lot in development. There are a few that are canceled, and so basically the previously released has jumped up. We haven't actually found anything that was specific to Dynamics 365, so we're not included, but now you have an idea of how this stuff is moving along and moving forward. If anyone has any questions, this is the time about this to ask questions. Just the easiest way is just say something in the chat and I'll unmute you. No questions. Okay, so move to the next slide. This is VS Visual Studio and Visual Studio Team Services updates. There are actually some interesting updates here. So this the update 127 of VSTS. This is so just so you know, the VSTS team works using sprints. They have an agile process. This came out on December the 11th, so it's quite new. The focus has been to help you manage your test results. So a lot of execution, as you saw before. There was some stuff also in new stuff setting up test labs, and also a new experience with the marketplace, so that you can get even more value out of the ecosystem. The real highlights is now you can generate YAML templates from existing build definitions. So if you're a YAML fan and you have some build definitions, you can generate them directly from there. Enhancements to multi-phase builds, different agents. So this is basically developing and giving you better possibilities. It was a little limited what you could do, but now you can have multiple agents running parallel tests, and you can even have conditional execution for builds. So all these things, you were still doing builds and you could actually have it, but it was a little more tricky. So there's a lot of nice new stuff, and I know there's at least a couple of people today who do DevOps, so go look into it. It'll make your life a little easier. Then there's skipping scheduled builds if nothing has changed in the repository. Yes, so if you had there are builds that would run if you're doing, for example, a nightly build or an hourly build or whatever, they would run independently of whether there were changes or not, which is kind of wasteful. So this allows you to set them up that if there have been no changes in the repository, then they won't run, and you'll avoid the noise and the cost of the extra builds. So I think that was nice too, because I think most of us run regular builds, and these are basically scheduled builds, and sometimes these scheduled builds have no reason to be running because there is really nothing new. The cloud solution provider purchasing is now generally available. So I'm not quite sure what were the limitations, since we don't sell CSP licenses, but basically now there are the possibilities. They've made it more flexible to work with a CSP program, and generally, if you don't have a lot of users, or if you're not sure how many licenses you have, CSP tends to be much more flexible as opposed to an enterprise license. Of course, you're not going to get the same discounts, but especially for those of you who have not started yet, you should look into it, because it helps you to start nice and easy without large commitments. As a matter of fact, you can commit to CSP licenses and take them up or down on a monthly basis, which you can't, for example, with an enterprise license. So, and this is even improving. So, any questions on this? Just again, say something in the chat. I don't see anything, so we'll move on. And in Power BI, there are no updates that were specifically relevant to Dynamics 365 for operations. And I might not be telling you the complete truth. I'm not the Power BI expert at XABS, so I don't look as deep into it. If there was anything we missed, we'll cover it next month. But I couldn't see anything that was really worth mentioning. So this covers the update. So now we have a tip for you: hotfixes. Hotfixes can be applied now from Visual Studio directly. So it has been, or until reasonably recently, if you had to apply a hotfix like the PU13, you would have to go download it to a development environment, and then you had to use some command line tooling to apply the hotfix. You can now do that directly from Visual Studio. There's go on the Dynamics 365 menu, go on the add-ins, and there's a menu item in the add-in to do that. There is, however, one catch. This only supports AXCDP package bundles, and the only guys who can make these bundles at the moment is Microsoft. So hotfixes coming from ISVs, your own hotfixes, you're still stuck with doing this from the command line. But if you get them from Microsoft, this is nice. It's so you don't have to remember how to use the command line, and it just works. Select the package bundle, and then apply it, and off it goes. It generates or marks all the elements that have been changed, so you know what you have to check into your version control, and with a nice UI. So that brings us up to the end. So any general questions today, or any questions that you wanted to ask and didn't manage to ask during the webinar? I don't see any questions coming up. So to wrap up, the feedback is at this URL. As I said, if you don't have photographic memory, or you don't feel like taking a screenshot, then you'll get an email with this. We'd appreciate your feedback. We're trying to keep it to 45 minutes now. We found that 1 hour was a little too much, and I guess this time we were successful. We managed to shorten it a little. And thank you, everyone. I hope to see you next month, and have a great. I hope your 2018 started well, and that'll continue to go well. Jonathan, do you want to jump in and say goodbye also?
Yeah, thank you, Louis. And to back up what Louis is saying, I hope you all have a great 2018 and look forward to seeing you all next month.
Thank you very much, everybody. We look forward to seeing you. Bye.
Thank you.